induction fans, we will turn the fan on for longer duration of time.
That also means utility bills are around $600 higher. Another chicken and vegetable farmer says his birds are affected too.
The breed that I'm growing is supposed to reach up to 4 to 5 kilos, but we only hit about 3.5 here. We spend a lot of the energy that they get from their food. Instead of putting it to growth, they put it to regulating their body temperature.
He adds that the warm conditions are perfect for breeding spider mites, broad mites, and aphids. These pests attack the crops and stunt its growth for weeks, delaying harvest.
There are certain pests which are more prevalent in hot temperatures. It's also difficult because if we ever need to treat the plant, even if we're just spraying water to try and dislodge the pests, the water and the heat don't go well together, because then you start to run into issues with high humidity and warm temperatures, and you get like fungal diseases, bacterial diseases.
One expert says the heat will slow Singapore's 30 by 30 goal of producing more of its own food by the end of the decade.
That goal definitely is being hurt or affected seriously by the more rapid climb of climate change than even scientists had imagined a few years ago. I think heat and flood resistant varieties need to come online very, very, very fast.
Professor Thomas adds that farmers around the world face the same situation. Several countries in Southeast Asia have already seen higher food prices because of shrinking produce. Farmers are bracing themselves for more heat waves like this.
In just a couple of months, all these goats will move to their new home in Neo Tiew. The new farm that's going to be 3 stories high has been designed to have better ventilation, so it's more comfortable for the goats. It'll also have more fans, higher ceilings, and additional shelter to shield them from sun rays.
But Professor Thomas says eventually the root of the problem is still climate change, and more must be done to combat it.
The Football Association of Singapore is starting a review of the recent poor showing at the SEA Games. Its acting president says recommendations to improve performance will be shared with the public.
A painful watch for Singaporeans. A humiliating 7-0 defeat to arch rivals Malaysia. For some, the downfall was a long time coming, and fingers were pointed at the FAS for not stemming the slide.
It was a painful experience for all of us, especially for me, if it's not painfully obvious already. I'm a football fan like every other Singaporean, and what we expect from our team is a performance that makes us proud.
Singapore has never won SEA Games gold in football. They last reached the final some 30 years ago. Mr. Tan says he knows why.
And there is a gulf now that's developed between the top nations in ASEAN as us. Our players are not being blooded early enough at the highest level in professional game. They're entering it too late. And so obviously the whole purpose of making sure that our youth development system is fixed is to get the players moving at a younger age and reaching the SPL at a higher quality earlier.
The review will start on Monday and takes around 4 weeks. In the meantime, the FAS is engaging various stakeholders for feedback.
Ex-players, coaches, administrators, fans and stakeholders were invited for a closed-door session with the FAS to discuss the state of local football. Now, the lively discussion touched on topics like youth development and accountability for results. Many who attended say they are looking forward to more of such sessions.
It was heart-to-heart talk. It was no holds barred. So I think it's a great session. I hope there will be accountability, meaning similar sessions like this, because if this is how we want to take Singapore soccer to a different level, then I think we can't wait for a crisis before we huddle.
There's a lot of milestones, a lot of things that need to go in before now. The SEA Games result hopefully is just a blip on that journey, and hopefully over the next couple of years, a lot of the initiatives which are targeted on youth football, talent ID, developing the players, will start to come to fruition.
FAS is targeting for more players to ply their trade in developed leagues like in Europe, so that they can lift Singapore's football standards higher when they return for national duty.
And that's Asia Now for this hour. Thanks for your company.
memories wherever you go. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
The whole day I'm sitting there, but there's no place to go.
The house can stay. Can't kick off. They are not looking.
The assumption is that the homeless person must have done something wrong. It's a more complex issue.
Hello and welcome to Money Mind. They've all reported record profits. So, which Singapore bank stock should you pick? Creating holiday magic for Asia's new top tourists. How businesses are catering for the Indian tourist dollar. Plus, what do you get when you combine brain cells and computer chips? First, though, the top business headlines you need to know this week. Youth unemployment in China has hit a record high. More than 1 in 5 young people under 25 are unemployed, and over 11 million fresh graduates will soon enter the job market. Japan's economy is officially out of recession. The first expansion in 3 quarters was due to higher private consumption. You'll need to have $3.5 million US to be in the top 1% in Singapore. That's the highest threshold in Asia. Monaco topped the list. Singapore's non-oil domestic exports fell 9.8% in April year-on-year. It's the 7th consecutive month of decline. Singapore Airlines has reported a net profit of 2.16 billion Sing dollars for the year, the highest in its history. Shares rose to their highest level in over 3 years on the news. All 3 of Singapore's local banks have also posted stellar quarterly net profits for the first quarter on the back of record profits in 2022.